Hello and welcome to the BetterU Podcast, where we go in depth and get to listen to stories of hope, strength, and courage, straight from some of the leading health, fitness, and wellness experts who help transform lives one person at a time. I am your host, RKaye, and today we are joined by the Path to Motherhood podcast host and infertility life and mindset coach, Sarah Brandell. Good morning, Sarah, and thank you for joining us in the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
All right, so of course, let's get the show on the road, and let me just ask you how it was or what it was that made it possible for you to begin your journey as a coach or an expert in your field.
Yeah, so really my experience started with experiencing what it was like to get coached myself, right? And going to coaching for a handful of different things, but seeing this one big part of my life that I really could benefit from coaching, and I didn't see a bunch of access to that. So I was going to coaching for things about my career, about lifestyle changes, about relationship. But when I was going through and still am going through infertility and trying to conceive and create our family, I didn't see as much support for that. So that is what really prompted me to go into the coaching world. And for over a year and a half now, I've specifically only been coaching women going through infertility, pregnancy loss, pregnancy with anxiety because of a history of those things. And it's been a fun journey.
That's absolutely amazing. I always get surprised. Well, I actually shouldn't be, but a lot of my podcast interviews so far, it's people taking really big action and having a step forward and making sure that the troubles that they go through, the obstacles that they go through, they make sure that they take action and really find the solutions to it, and making sure that they themselves are the answer to what it is that needs to be resolved, right? So Has there ever been an unforgettable experience so far that you seem to always share with all of your clients?
I think for me, there's so many of them it's too many to count, but I always relate to having really dealt a ton with coaching, especially in the infertility space. And my story is that my first time of actually finally getting pregnant, almost a year into trying, ended in a miscarriage. And that was a really, really hard time in our journey. And if you would have told that version of me, right, back in 2018, like, it's going to be okay. You're going to be able to get through this. Yeah. This isn't going to be the worst part of your journey. There's actually going to be harder parts. I wouldn't have believed you. Like, I really probably would not have believed you or thought that I would have been able to manage anything more difficult than that. And I share that because we all feel that way. Like, when things are really hard, we feel like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through this, let alone do anything else in the future. And I get that because I've been there. And I think that little story can just give people some hope that, yes, this feels really impossible and really hard right now in the moment, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to define the next 30 years of my life.
That is absolutely true. And speaking of hope, are there certain instances in your life that has been like that beacon of hope for you? What are certain things that you have overcome that you always kind of constantly put it in your mind that, I was able to overcome this, and so if I did it, I can go through the rest of my life knowing that I can do everything else? Is there a specific experience that you always have running in your head on replay and just telling yourself, like, you can do it because of this?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me, which is common for so many women, is when you start into this path and you want to build a family so badly, for a lot of us, it is the thing that we kind of identify as. We identify as someone who is going to be the mother, is going to have that family, and it's going to look a certain way, and you're going to have this many kids, and they're going to be this perfectly spaced apart. And there's a huge grieving process that comes with acknowledging, hey, how I thought it was going to look is not what it's going to actually be. And to that point, I think the gift that's taken me years to get to, and the gift that I would love to give to every single woman that I work with, is a belief now that no matter what happens, right? I told you we're still on the journey. We're going through IVF right now. No matter what happens, no matter the outcome, I know at the end of the day, I will still have a good life. I will still be able to enjoy my life. I will find things to be passionate about. I will find things to spend my time with. And that takes so much pressure away from like almost like grasping onto like it has to turn out this way. And that if you're hearing that and like you're in it and you're like, there's no way, I'm not anywhere near that. I get that. That was me too. But that gift of being able to get to this point where I'm less attached to the outcome. I still want it, absolutely. But I believe no matter what happens, I will be okay. That's a gift that I wish everyone in the world could have, no matter what they're going through.
That is beautiful. And yeah, that is something that a lot of people really should be able to grasp, is that no matter what happens through life, eventually it will all fall into place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you work a lot with women out there, and is there a specific misconception in terms of the journey of wanting to become a mother? Is there one specific or a few misconceptions that you would like to clarify with the women?
So many. Let's do one in two different directions.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing that I see is a lot of women I work with, they have gone through life like studying, getting the grades, following the path to get the degree, following the path to get the partner, getting the relationship set up. If you were like me, I like graduated, got married, bought the house, like did all the things and did all the hard work to get there. And then you go into this thing that's supposed to just be the next step. And you're like, holy crap, like I don't have control over this. And I can work harder and harder and harder. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to have a positive outcome. And so that's one big misconception. I think a lot of women go into this part of their journey thinking is like, oh, I just have to do enough and do it right, and then I'll just have what I want. And it doesn't work like that. And that's not good news. But I do think it's nice to know that in advance, right? Like, I think there are a lot of people who are super far removed who think, oh, just do IVF and you'll have a kid. It's not that simple. There are people who do 10, 11, 12 rounds and still never have a child. So yeah, something along a misconception of just, it is something that we don't have all the control over. And that is what I think is the biggest gift of having coaching around this, is to navigate something where you don't have control. From the other direction, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and it goes in so many different directions, is people who are outside of infertility and they have a friend, a family member, a whoever who is going through it. We all want to say the nice thing to be nice.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what we say does not come off how we really mean it to the person that's hearing it, right? When you're in it and someone tells you it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, or at least your loss was really early, or, tells you, hey, if you just relax and stop thinking about it, then it'll work. My friend did this and that worked. All those comments, they come out of us just trying to like make a painful situation less painful, but they're really invalidating to whoever's going through that journey. And that would be like something that I would just love to share with just the world, of how to not make assumptions about how someone is feeling through the process. People who are going through this would rather you just listen and say, I'm sorry you're having to deal with that, than give any advice. So those would be two that I would give.
And thank you so much for sharing that. A lot of people really do need to hear that.
Yeah.
Someone who's actually coaching everybody else and guiding everybody else who's going through that journey. Now, so I'm actually very curious because I've had a few friends who have also gone through what you're currently going through. And is there a specific, or rather, let me rephrase my question. Would you give us a little intro into how it is that you work with your clients, how it is that everything begins when you work with someone who wants to or asks for your help?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what I do is not something that seems common sense or seems like an obvious part of this journey, right? Women fall lots of different places on the spectrum, whether that's just trying from home with their app and they're tracking things, whether that's they're working with their OB, they're working with a holistic practitioner or a dietitian or whatever, or they've gone to doing some type of fertility treatments, whatever that is. It's all about, how do I fix my hormones? How do I fix myself? How do I control this situation to try to get myself pregnant? And what I do is I really just say, hey, regardless of where you are in the journey, how can we take care of you and your emotions and how you're feeling through this process right now in this moment, and accepting kind of where you are. We spend a lot of time together, working together on how can it be safe to feel all of the difficult emotions that come up in this process. You said the word hope earlier. So many women have this conflicted relationship with hope of I really want to feel hopeful, but at the same time, if I feel hopeful, will that make the disappointment of a, unsuccessful cycle more painful? So we really talk a lot about how it's okay to have fear, worry, doubt, and feel hopeful. It's okay to feel sad when a friend announces they're pregnant and be happy for them. Those can coexist. And so that's a lot of what we're doing, is we're validating what they're going through. We're practicing those skills. And the more that we do that, as we work together, the more I find women are able to, number one, feel authentically themselves, not feel like they're wearing this fake mask where they're showing up to things and just pretending when they don't really feel that way. Number two, still get to enjoy right now, go do things with their partner, not cancel every vacation, still do hobbies. I had years where I wanted to be a golfer. I wanted to go take golf lessons, and I didn't, because what if I got pregnant?
Yeah.
And finally, there was a point where I was hey, I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to enjoy doing things. And if I get pregnant, then we'll make an adjustment. And that is the gift that we can give by opening up space in our life to be okay to have fun and deal with all the tough stuff that infertility brings up.
There's one word that's popping in my head right now, and it's that you are pretty much an inspiration for people, because to me, in my world, it's a big portion of it is just pretty much basic fitness, general fitness, and you are specializing in something that really is very, very specific, and I absolutely think a lot of women should know more about, and it's just really inspiring. And so, speaking of inspiring right now, I'm sure that you yourself have your own, people who inspire you and motivate you. Are there specific people in mind right now that does help you out through your coaching and your coaching expertise, or are there mentors that you look up to that has really helped mold you into becoming the coach that you are to your clients?
Yeah, of course, right? There's mentors and inspirational people in different directions. For those that don't know, my background is actually that I am still a physician assistant. I used to work medically. I don't see patients anymore, but I totally have patience, I think of, that overcame things that seem insurmountable, cancer patients that came to me and had the most positive outlook versus someone who's navigating a cold and has the most negative outlook, right? And being able to look to those people and say, like, what are they doing differently that's allowing them to show up this way? I have women near and dear to me. I'm specifically thinking of one person right now, April Klein, who she runs a business here local to me, all about women's health and prioritizing women's health and all the different facets that means, and doing it in an unconventional way. But that's because she's prioritizing the woman, and that's really what I hope I can be doing too. And then so many people, other coaches in the coaching space that like help me stay humble, but also motivated as I build this new thing that, a lot of people didn't even know was a career or a service that they could even hire. So those would be some of the main ones.
That's absolutely relatable to everyone. Like you get to a point where you're like inspired by other people and are passionate about something and you want to share it as well. Now, speaking of passion, what is it that keeps you passionate and keeps you pushing forward? What do you think is constantly within your mind space that keeps you moving forward and lets you have that state of mind where you're like, you know what, I don't really feel 100% today, but I know there are other people that need my help. So what is it that drives you forward?
I think a lot of it comes from conversations and reflection on my experience. But just having those conversations and either hearing new ways that people are experiencing the journey or being reminded of ways that I also experienced the journey and how painful, how difficult, how it felt like something that I couldn't get through felt, right? And knowing that there's another way, knowing that it doesn't have to feel like that, knowing it doesn't have to feel like you lost your identity and all of your hobbies and all you are is like a doctor appointment machine that goes and does shots and meds and nothing else. And to be reminded that there are women out there that feel like that's where they are, like that keeps me motivated every single day to keep showing up, to help share that there are other ways to go through this where it's less miserable.
I'm just pretty quiet here and I'm trying to really absorb and feel what it is that you're sharing with others and you're guiding others through. I'm not a mom yet, but having the opportunity to see people like you and other coaches who help women out there, it's absolutely beautiful that a lot of people take action and a lot of people really, get out there and are courageous enough to share their own journey to help other people. Yeah. Now, so far, has there been a proud moment for you as a coach? Has been
so many. Let me think of a recent one. Mm-hmm. So, I recently had a client who had worked with me for 4 or 5 months. She was someone who came to me with having had a history of actually having a stillbirth. So she lost a baby almost I think 3 or 4 days before her due date. And she had spent time grieving that before we ever even met and going through a lot of that process. But she knew she didn't feel done trying. But to navigate, now I'm going to try again with all that fear and trauma of what I've been through in her past. She had put up this wall. She was very cynical about the process. She was very, she was just in a lot of pain. Of course, that makes absolute sense why she was in a lot of pain. And again, cynical, thinking the medical team was out to just steal her money, that, this was never going to work, a lot of negative thoughts about it. And she said exactly the gift I wish all women had recently, where she said to me, I'm still trying. I have a handful more transfers that I'm going to be doing. But even if none of them are successful, I'm realizing I'm still going to have a great life. And to hear that amount of positivity come out of her was like that's enough. Just to do that just for her is enough to me to, yeah, just help women believe in that and be able to really believe in that process.
That is absolutely beautiful. Like it always, I kind of like hold back tears sometimes when I talk to people in the podcast, because it's always amazing when we get to work with people. And that is kind of like the prize that we have as coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we get to see how much transformation from point A to whatever day they landed at. And yeah, it's just truly amazing. Now, on a final note, could you share with us a quick piece of advice that a lot of women will be able to utilize today in terms of, becoming a mother and wanting to become a mother?
Yeah, I think the piece of advice I share is something that would absolutely help those who are trying, those who are about to go into motherhood, but honestly, it would help anybody. And that is that as a culture, as a society, we have very much become a group of people who don't like to feel our uncomfortable emotions, who have been taught since we were little kids, stop crying, don't do that, put that away. Here's some food, don't be upset, right? Here's a laptop or what's it called, a tablet, don't be upset. And it's taught us that it's not safe to be with our emotions. And that causes us a lot of issues. It literally causes health issues. It causes mental health issues. It causes energy issues and our ability to go out there and do what we want to do. It creates us being a less authentic person. And so I guess the biggest piece of advice I would share is if you could do anything to become familiar with feeling your emotions, allowing your emotions, knowing it's safe to do that, then that can open up so much in your life. And that's really what I work on with women doing, is becoming safe with that process.
Yeah. I'm just trying to absorb everything that you're sharing.
Yeah.
It's not just the audience who learns. Like I've always said that, and I've always been open to that idea. I'm like, it's not just the audience that's going to be learning. I'm also learning as a coach as well. So Thank you so much for being with us today. And for everybody. All right, so for everyone who would like to get in touch with Sarah and see all her work, I will be putting all of those wonderful links in the description box below. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And to everyone listening and watching us, thank you so much for joining the BetterU Podcast today. I am Coach RKaye, reminding you always to never give up on your movement journey, because it's never too late to move. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.